Hello, how are you doing? Recently, I've been relaxing and enjoying some time off and doing some reading and looking forward to New Year. And one of the most exciting things about a new year are books that are coming out the next year. So I've been perusing through some publishers' lists and figuring out what I want to read next year. And I've picked out 12 books that I'm most looking forward to, which I'm going to describe and talk about. Some of them are by authors I've read before, so I'm really anticipating their new book. Others are really promising looking new debuts, so I'll get into descriptions of all of them and note the publication dates. Of course, these are UK publications, which are subject to change. Sometimes publishers change around when books come out, and obviously they're published in different regions and in different countries at different times, but it's just to give you a rough idea of when they're coming out. But I'd also love to know about what books you're most looking forward to next year. Please let me know in the comments below, because there might have been some that I've missed and that I will be looking forward to as well. So to start off, there's one that I think a lot of people are anticipating, because you might have heard of a little book called A Little Life. Actually, it's not so little a book, is it? It's a really long book, but this is the novel that gave birth to a million videos and TikToks of people weeping into the camera and really having their souls crushed by this really heartrending story. And I was really moved by this novel as well, like a lot of other people. So I'm hugely looking forward to Hanya Yanagihara's new novel, To Paradise, which is being published on January 11th. And it's another great big novel. It's 700 pages long, and it's quite a saga. It's a novel set over 3 different centuries, in 1893 in an alternate version of America, and 1993 in New York City when the city is being swept with the AIDS epidemic, and in 2093 when the world is under totalitarian rule, and there are viruses traveling throughout society, and so yeah, it's in these 3 different time periods, but they are all connected, I think, in some way by either tone or theme, and so yeah, quite an ambitious novel, but I really trust that Hanya Yanagihara has the talent and scope as a writer to create an epic such as this. And it's been compared to War and Peace by the writer Edmund White, who posted about it on Facebook after he read it. So yeah, I'm massively anticipating this new book and just want to sit down and knuckle down with it over the New Year period to get stuck into it. Next is a debut novel being published on January 18th called How High We Go in the Dark by Sequoia Nagamatsu. And this is an author that's published a collection of short stories before, but this is his very first novel. And it also has sort of dystopian vibes that are connected to a virus and a plague. But this was a novel which was actually written pre-pandemic, so it's quite amazing that he picked this as the theme of his story. And it's about a virus which is unearthed from the Antarctic when a scientist goes to visit there, and then rapidly starts spreading around the world. And it's about the consequences of that and how society and people try to adjust to this new normal. So I think this is a book that a lot of people will be able to relate to at the moment, as we're still going through the consequences of this pandemic. But my partner read this novel already. I've not read it, and he said that it's really excellent and it's one that I should get to. So yeah, this is a debut that I'm really highly anticipating. Another debut novel being published on February 3rd is Violets by Alex Hyde, which has a very striking cover. And this is a story of 2 different women who are both called Violet, during wartime, World War II in Britain, and their experiences with motherhood and their struggles in society at their time, their relationships and friendships, and their connection to each other. And this is one that I'm really looking forward to based on some authors that have given quotes for this book, like Megan Hunter, who says that, "I loved this moving, graceful novel which writes through the years with a rare deftness of touch. Violets has a compelling, quiet power all the way to its affecting end." And the author Margot Jefferson also says, "A novel of taut symmetry and dissonance. War, marriage, affairs, childbirth, all are here dissolving the gender divisions we still impose on these subjects. Alex Hyde's prose is rhythmically acute and emotionally layered. This is a subtle and daring book." And I think it's really striking how this novel is also described as a fictional reimagining of the author's father's life. Another new novel being published on February 3rd is The Colony by Audrey Magee. And I had read this author's novel, The Undertaking, when it was shortlisted for the Women's Prize a number of years ago. And it was one of my favorites from that year. So I've been really anticipating this author's new work. And this is a story of two different men that travel to an island to try to preserve it, either in painting or in language and in speech. And so it's about their sort of interpretation of the people and the landscape that they find there. Which it sounds like quite a high concept book, but this is another novel that comes with some quotes by authors that I really enjoy. So Sarah Moss says of this novel that it's a vivid and memorable book about art, land, and language, love and sex, youth and age. Big ideas tread lightly through Audrey Magee's strong prose. And the Irish author Lisa McKerney also says that The Colony is brimming with ideas about identity and soul, a canny, challenging, and never less than engrossing read. Does anyone remember a couple of years ago around New Year when this cover and image were everywhere? It was all over the internet. A lot of readers were really excited for Marlon James' new novel. But when it was actually published, there were a lot of mixed responses to it. But I personally loved this story and got completely swept into this medieval African fantasy epic that was just filled with war and sex, and I just totally engrossed by it and was really excited because it is the first in a 3-part series, and here is the new cover and new image. This is Moon Witch Spider King, which is going to be published on March 3rd, and it follows the same story from the first book, but from a very different perspective, following the thoughts and responses of a witch called Sogalon, who we met in the first book, but now we get her point of view, and it is just as long as the first book. It is over 600 pages, and I am so up for it. Also being published on March 3rd, and going back to Ireland and historical wartime, is These Days by Lucy Caldwell, and this is set in Belfast during the Blitz of World War II, when it finally reached Belfast and Ireland, and there was bombing in the city over the course of a number of days, and it follows the story of two sisters, one who is engaged to be married and one who is in a secret relationship with another woman, and following their story. And I've read lots of Lucy Caldwell's short stories before, like in her collection Multitudes, and her writing is gorgeous and really psychologically insightful, and gives really interesting commentary on society. So I'm I'm so looking forward to this new novel. Now, a couple of years ago, one of my favorite books of the year was this novel Hurricane Season by Mexican author Fernanda Melchor, which was translated by Sophie Hughes, and this was nominated for the International Booker Prize, and I was really rooting for it to win, or hoping that it might win. It's an incredible story, and she has a new novel out called Paradais, which is going to be published on March 23rd, and it's set inside a luxury housing complex and follows two misfit teenagers. And this is an author that writes about the violence and distemper and racism in society, and social and economic inequalities in such a vivid and striking way. And so I'm so looking forward to this new book. Another new novel in translation being published on March 24th is Chilean Poet by Alejandro Zambra and translated by McDowell. And this follows the story of a poet, a would-be poet, and his romances, and it's about ambition and failure. And I just love this author's writing. I read his novel Multiple Choice, which is such a clever and playful novel. There's a real sense of humor to his writing that comes out, as well as this ardent dedication to art, which I find really moving. So this is very exciting. Now, I don't read all that much poetry, but Ocean Vuong's collection, Night Sky with Exit Wounds, is one of the best poetry collections I've ever read. I struggled with his novel a bit more, though there were parts of it that I thought were very moving. But I'm really excited that he has a new poetry collection coming out on April 7th called Time is a Mother, which is a great title. And these are poems which are about how the author's mother died, and him wrestling with that sense of grief, like wanting to embrace it and own it, but also struggling with the emotions which come from it. So I think this will be a really powerful book that I'm really looking forward to. In a recent video, I talked about how there was some controversy recently surrounding the Booker Prize when one of the former judges from 2020 talked about their winner that year, Shuggie Bain by Douglas Stuart, and was describing the sensibility and discussions amongst other judges, and how that judge felt that this was a winner because it was gay but not too gay. And so I discussed how I had some thoughts and feelings about that. And Douglas Stuart has a new novel out called Janmungo, being published on April 14th, that I'm so excited about. And one of the reasons I'm so excited about it is because of the cover, and the UK cover has two men kissing on it. And so this is a novel that will be definitely too gay for some, which I think is great, and I think it's so brave of the publishers to be including this image by Wolfgang Tillmans on the cover, because it's so striking. It's going to be challenging for some people, but I think it's gonna really confront people about this and make them think about it. So it's sort of like it almost seems like in response to that controversy, though I don't think it really is. But this is another novel which is set in Glasgow and follows two young men that are in love with each other. Mungo, who is a Protestant, and James, who is a Catholic. And I don't know if many people are aware of this, but like in Northern Ireland, there's big struggles and political and religious divide in Glasgow along these two lines, and which a lot of violence has arisen out of. And actually something about Shuggie Bain, it does include a little bit about that in the novel, which I discussed in my review of it, but I didn't hear many other people discussing that. But that is handled really fully in this new novel and really addressing it. And it gives me vibes of like Romeo and Juliet or like West Side Story of like two people in love from different sides of this controversy, and I'm so looking forward to it. Also on April 14th, Julian Barnes is publishing a new novel called Elizabeth Finch, and it is the story of a woman named Elizabeth Finch who is a teacher of culture and civilization, and it describes how this is more than a novel. It's a loving tribute to philosophy, a careful evaluation of history, an invitation to think for ourselves. It's a moment to reflect and to gently explore our own theories and assumptions. It is truly a balm of our times. And that is a slightly wanky description, but because it is written by Julian Barnes, and I think his fiction and like insight into our like culture and society and issues to do with mortality are so insightful and moving that I really trust that this is going to be a good book. And so yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Looking even further forward into the future, on June 9th, the debut novel Tiepolo Blue by James Cahill will be published, and this is another story about a teacher, this time an art historian in the mid-90s in England, and he's a very respected figure and has really dedicated himself to academic study but hasn't explored his personal life so much, and then discovers that he has attraction to other men, and so it's about his sexual awakening and his dramatic downfall, and following his story as he moves to London and explores a relationship there, and it reassesses his relationship with art. And I think it sounds like such a great story, and I believe that part of this novel is also set around an area of London that I live in, so I always look forward to that, and yeah, it just sounds like such a good story. So those are all the books, or the books that I'm most looking forward to. Obviously, a lot more is being published next year, and other things that I'm anticipating. But yeah, I can't talk about everything. But I'd love to know if you're also looking forward to any of these books now, or if you have other books that you're really looking forward to. Let me know what I'm missing out on and what I need to look forward to. But thank you for watching, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye-bye.